Hello and welcome into the latest edition of the Fore-All Podcast. I'm Jesse Morrison alongside Max Bechtold. And Max, we had the event in our area out in Chandler, Arizona, the Ford Championship. It was a really, really great event. Ended in a playoff. And first off, you were out there 3 days, and then I was out there for the final round. I just want to get your thoughts on this event since, we were talking about last week how we think that there should be more events out here in Arizona since it's just such a golf centered community. And I thought that this event really showed that, this is a place for the LPGA.
Yeah, I thought this was a phenomenal event. I heard people just in the gallery talking about how they came all the way from Tucson to watch this. For those not familiar, Tucson's not particularly that close to Phoenix, so that was quite a drive for some people. And I think they saw some phenomenal golf. I mean, this was one of the best non-major fields in the last 20 years, literally. So they saw great players out here. And yeah, I think the community really supported this. I mean, I think I tweeted out on Saturday because I was with Nelly's group for a few holes that I had never seen a gallery as large on the LPGA Tour than Nelly's on Saturday, which is saying something because I've been to probably 10, 11 events at this point now, and including some in Nelly's home state of Florida. I've never seen a following like she had out there on Saturday. And so I think that the crowds were great. I think the LPGA put on a good tournament. There's a phenomenal field. Obviously, a terrific finish. Going to be one of the best Sundays of golf we see all year. I mean, there was 15 people who had a chance to win it on the final day, and it came down to a playoff with two major champions, two great players, two players who were kind of looking to break some streaks of not winning. I mean, obviously, Lilia won less than a year ago, but for a player of her standard, this was a good, kind of break in between contending. And obviously, Hyo Joo Kim put on a show on Sunday and had a terrific final hole that really summed up her whole day. Just hit it straight in the fairway, hit it right on the green, and make the putt. And so I thought this was a great event. I thought Wild Horse Pass and Whirlwind Golf Club were great hosts. I thought the vibes were very good. Um, I was out there on the 16th hole a little bit, which is a fun little hole, kind of a mini 16 on TPC Scottsdale. They had music playing, they had big stands around. There's great energy and great vibe. So I thought this was a great tournament. I thought the Ford Championship was an awesome event. It was one of the better LPG events I've been to.
Yeah, and on Sunday, I started out the day following Nelly Corda's group with Patty Tavatanakit, and that was I just wanted to watch the world number one. None of the leaders had really teed off yet, so I followed that group for a while, and then like perfect timing got back to the ninth or the I got back to the first hole right when the leaders were getting off, and then I followed Lilia Vu and Charlie Hull's group for 8 or so holes. And then I just, Lilia Vu started out the day where I was like, okay, so she's just going to keep rattling off birdies here and she's really going to take a charge and win this. And then the pars started coming for her while everyone else behind her started making birdies. And so I was like, okay, I just need to go sit on 18 because I was running our social media account. And I was like, oh, I need to go sit on 18 because one of these players that's coming through 18 is going to win. And I need to capture who won that. And luckily for me, what ended up happening was a playoff on 18, which was super exciting. And they both hit great shots onto the green and both had chances for birdie. And Hyo Joo Kim just she made the birdie and Liu didn't, and popped the champagne. It was over, but it was great. I had such a fun time there. The crowds were honestly, I was like, I've watched. This is my first LPG been to as a fan or a media member or whatever, and from like what I've seen on TV majors, like this sized crowd to me. Like it was a big time crowd at this event. And like it was hard to move through the crowd on the Nelly group, and then the final group was really hard to it was just really hard to keep up with them because there were so many people there, which was just, it was great to see. It's definitely there's definitely a ton of momentum for women's golf. And again, just the thing that I gathered was just everybody was out there, all the fans, the players, everybody was just having fun. And what I liked about it too is just the unbelievable access that fans got to the players. Like you could literally walk. There was a place that like they had designated for getting autographs. What sport does that? What sport is like, we have an autograph alley? So like I thought that was great. And then, all the players were great with the fans. I just thought it was a great event, great course, a course I would like to play now. And yeah, just overall had a great time.
Yeah, and I think you really, really hit on it here. And I think a lot of golf fans don't really understand what going to an LPGA event in person brings, because a lot of people haven't been to them, frankly. And I think the LPGA is the most fan-friendly sports league there is. Like, there's not another league in America that's more fan-friendly than the LPGA Tour. Every single player is great with the fans on the LPGA Tour. All of them. Even players that like you've heard are difficult with the media or are a little bit more reserved, everybody's great with the fans. And the fans have unbelievable access. I was out there on Saturday and I was walking kind of around the first hole, and Lexi Thompson just kind of walks over to my side. I could literally like almost reach out and touch her. Like that's how close you get to these players. Like you get to really see them up close. You have great access. Every single player, even if they don't take the time to sign an autograph or take a picture because they're kind of in the middle of their round or about to start it, they will at least say hi, thank you for coming out. They will acknowledge you. They will talk to you for a minute. Every single player out there is fantastic, and the access you get is awesome. Obviously, if you follow one of the two or three big groups, whether it be Nelly Korda's group, Lydia Ko's group, Brooke Henderson's group, Lexi Thompson's group, obviously those groups have a lot of people around them. Most of the groups, you basically have access to watch front row seats. You can get closer. A lot of them have the ropes in a little bit tighter than some of the PGA Tour events. They can do that because players hit it a lot straighter. But also, you can get really up close and personal with them, see their shots, see them talking to their caddies. It's really a terrific spectator event is going to an LPGA tournament. So I would just like to throw that out there to anybody. If one is coming to your town, I highly recommend it because they are great, great events.
Yeah, and something else I'd like to add is just, you wouldn't think that it's this entertaining, but it is. Watching Nelly Korda on the driving range before her round is so fun because she's just so much better than you.
Well,
and to watch her hit on the driving range is like just watching something that you've never seen before. Like even the best player at your local golf course who you hit on the driving range with doesn't come close to what she does on the driving range. And it's incredible to watch. And just the crowd for that was insane. Just to sit there, and there were just people just standing there and watching her hit, because that's how awesome it is to watch her hit and how good she is. I will say the one caddy or whoever it was that was standing in the middle of the driving range, bold move, my guy, bold move.
And you hit on something there when you talk about the crowd watching her hit. And we're off on a little bit of a tangent now going to events, but it has been interesting me going to events on a somewhat consistent basis now for about a year and a half, seeing Nelly's galleries grow over the last year and a half. She was a star back in 2023 when I went to the US Women's Open at Pebble Beach, and there were certainly people who followed her. But it's like every tournament I've gone to since then, it's just gotten bigger and bigger and bigger. And Arizona, I feel like it just reached like a fever pitch. So it's fascinating to see how it's hard to measure how people become big stars on the tour, but going to events and just seeing how many people are following somebody around is a really good way to do so. And it's incredible how many people were following her around at this event.
Yeah, and just to go into the tournament a little bit more, just for you, how cool is it to see Hyo Joo Kim break? You know, she hasn't won in almost on the LPGA tour. She hasn't won in almost 2 years. So it was cool to see her kind of break a winless streak, and it we're recording this as the T-Mobile match play is underway, and she's already playing well in that. So it just kind of looks like her career might be on like a rebound of sorts.
Yeah, I mean, we always talk about how the LPGA Tour is a momentum sport. We talk about momentum all the time. And so it's now a big surprise to see Hyo Joo Kim already playing well in the T-Mobile match play. This whole thing, now I'm gonna like toot my own horn a little bit, but this whole thing feels a little full circle. One of the first articles written on Fore-All.com was how Hyo Joo Kim is the most underrated player on the LPGA Tour. So now to see her win was a really cool thing. I mean, when she's playing at her best, she's just spectacular to watch. She kind of embodies the old school LPGA a little bit. Hit the ball straight, hit greens, fantastic putter. Like she doesn't bring the power. She's not the most flashy player out there, not a big personality, but she gets the job done. And she hits a lot of fairways and a lot of greens. And when she's rolling, she's about as consistent as any player on the tour, which is why 2024 was so strange because she played really inconsistent golf. So it's good to see her get back to that. It was kind of like an old school LPGA feel to this playoff because Lilia Vu and Hyo Joo Kim both kind of play that way. And even when you go down the leaderboard a little bit, when you go down to players like Alison Corpuz, like there was just a lot of players that just play really, really solid, non-flashy, non-superstar golf. And it was great to see that this week, that it wasn't the big dominant hitters, kind of cruising to victory. It was the players who just no ball placement that were really having a good time.
Yeah, and I do want to get to Nelly Corda's performance because we talked about her, but we didn't talk about her play. It was very this week. Like when I followed her, like there was a like I was fully prepared because she's Nelly Corda. I was like, okay, she's gonna get back into this thing today, and I'm not gonna leave her group. Like she's just gonna start, making birdies, and she's gonna come back into this. But it was just par, 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 and I talked the guy next to me that I was walking with like basically the whole time. I was like, she's running out of time here, and it's just wasn't a typical Nelly Corda event, which makes me think that maybe she should go to Asia next year.
Yeah, I mean, I see the argument. I mean, we've now had basically 2 years to evaluate it. Last year, she came off the long break playing phenomenal. This time, she had a bit of ring rust, definitely. And I think there was possibly some stamina issues, possibly because she looked phenomenal in the first two rounds, played great both those rounds, was in the second to last group on Saturday. But once Saturday came, and I don't know, sometimes, pairings can have something to do with this, but she looked so out of rhythm on Saturday. I actually tweeted out, I thought it was the worst I've ever seen her look was Saturday on the back nine. She was just not hitting good shots at all. Her approach shots were terrible. The putter went cold. And I think Sunday on the back nine, she played a little bit better, but yeah, that Saturday round really did her in, and I think she knew she was just a little bit too far back going into Sunday. I think there's a lot of encouragement to take out of the first two rounds of that tournament. Obviously, I think since we've referenced the first round of the T-Mobile match play is going on. She had a little bit of a disappointing result in the first match, tying against Brittany Altamare. That's kind of a win I think you have to have. But I'm still, as we'll get to later on in this podcast, I'm not too worried about her right now. I think she just needs to get back in a rhythm and start hitting some good shots and getting some momentum going, getting that putter back to what we saw early in the season, where she was one of the honestly best putters on tour, despite her kind of reputation. Those first couple events, she was putting great. So I think she just needs to see a couple putts fall, a couple great shots. I think match play is a really good opportunity to see that happen.
Yeah, and when I watched her play on Sunday, just kind of seemed like she was overshooting the hole a lot of times. And, I don't know if that's a club change to, a lesser club, or if it's, just hitting the ball a little softer, just whatever she needs to do. I think, she'll make that adjustment pretty quickly. But just going back to my point, I mean, I don't think she needs to play the entire Asian swing, but, maybe mix in a couple events just so that she doesn't come out when this tour really gets into full swing in March and be a little bit rusty, or just fatigue happens on Saturday and Sunday, kind of like you mentioned. All right, Max, over to the Augusta National Women's Amateur, which is going on right now, kind of. They really get to Augusta on Saturday. Right now, they're just playing locally in Augusta, and they'll get to Augusta National on Saturday. And for the players that basically don't miss the cut, or yeah, for players who don't miss the cut. And so just, yeah, what are you looking for in this event, and who to take home the title?
Yeah, I mean, this event, I mean, Golf Channel has been branding this on their commercials as the greatest title in women's golf. I don't agree with that. That being said, this is a phenomenal event. It's definitely, in my opinion, the biggest amateur event in women's golf. I would probably take at least four of the women's majors over this, but this is definitely the biggest event in amateur golf. It's a big star maker event. I mean, you look at somebody like Maria Fassi, who just this week was a sponsors exemption at the Ford Championship, hasn't done a whole lot with her career, but is still a huge name because she was the runner-up in the first Augusta National Women's Amateur. You look at Jennifer Kupcho, who is still a big star. A lot of that because she won the first Augusta National Women's Amateur. Rose Zhang has won this before. Lottie Wode won this last year. I think she's going to be one of the next stars of the LPGA Tour. So this is a big time event for players. And I am very excited. I mean, it's the one chance that we really get to watch women's golf on Augusta National. This is a huge stage. This event is played on NBC, so it's a chance for them to get out in front of a lot of eyeballs. A lot of people will just watch any golf tournament that's played at Augusta National. It's the most iconic course in the United States. So I think this is a great event, and I'm happy that it's become like a full on tradition at this point that is seeming to go on moving forward. Looking at who's going to win, I mean we're recording this after the first round is completed, and the two names at the top of the leaderboard were probably the two names who I was looking at as a winning names coming into it, which is Mega Gane, who most people will remember almost kind of won the 2021 U.S. Women's Amateur or U.S. Women's Open. She was in third place going into the final round at 17 years old. She played with Lexi Thompson. It was a big story at the time. Now you fast forward a few years, she's a great player at Stanford. Has been on a national championship team. Has played with players like Rachel Heck and Rose Zhang. And she played four times. She was in the drive, chip, and putt at Augusta. So she went out and shot 9 under today, which was a record. And I think she's looking very good for this. And then, as I already mentioned, Lottie Wode, the winner last year, went out and shot a 7 under in the first round, is in second place. number one ranked amateur in the world, just a phenomenal player at Florida State. I really think that Lottie Wode, especially because I saw her last year where she was so clutch down the stretch. I know the moment doesn't get to her. And I know more than anybody else in this field, so that Saturday when she's standing on the first tee at Augusta National, that moment isn't going to be too big for her. I think that's really important, and that's why I am picking her, even though it's the obvious easy pick. I do think Lottie Wode will win this year's Augusta National Women's Amateur and become the first two-time winner.
And I want to complain a little bit about this because I am someone that complains on about things. Uh, I think that this event should be more than one day at Augusta National. I think why don't they play the entire event there? It just seems like Augusta National kind of doesn't want, a full on tournament there regarding women. And I don't know that for sure, but that's just my opinion. And then um, I would also like to see them play a women's major at Augusta National at some point.
I 1000% agree. That was actually, now we'll just transition into plugging the newsletter. That was part of the newsletter this week, was talking about how the LPGA needs to get their players on Augusta National, whatever it takes. Because now we're getting to the point where a lot of them have actually played that in a tournament, because a lot of them played in the Augusta National Women's Amateur. Players like I said, Cupcho, Fossey, Yuka Sasso, Allison Corpuz, like they've all played in the Augusta National Women's Amateur. They need to get the best women in the world on Augusta National. I know that they have U.S. Women's Opens, scheduled for the next however 20 years or whatever, because the USGA loves to schedule in advance. If the opportunity comes to play the U.S. Women's Open at Augusta National, they need to take it.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And, again, like I mentioned, like Augusta National is very historic. It's a great course. We all know that, the Masters is probably the golf tournament. I would just overall, like
Certainly for Americans. Yeah.
for Americans, yeah, for sure. I mean, I personally, my favorite on both sides of both men's and the LPGA is the British Open
I
because I
100% agree.
love those courses over there. I love the pot bunkers. It's different golf than we're used to over there, but Augusta is
It's a yearly tradition. I mean, you think of Sunday at the Masters. There's nothing like it.
yeah, but I want to it's been 13 years uh of allowing women to be members there. And so I think it's just going to be hard for them to come around on this issue, unfortunately. Again, August 20th, 2012, if you can believe it, was the first time that they allowed women members. It was Condoleezza Rice and Darla Moore were the first two members of Augusta National who were women. So we can hope, but who knows? With again, 2012 is a ridiculously late year to start allowing women. But let's move on, Max. T-Mobile match play, it's underway, and I think we should probably start with what Gino Tittakun's doing out there or did out there. She absolutely crushed Danielle King today.
She did. I mean, obviously, there's a little bit of, I don't want to say sadness, but like, Danielle Kang was one of the top three or four American women's golfers for a lot of her career. From 2017 to 2022, she was a top three or four women's golfer, and it's a little bit hard to watch what her career has kind of turned into in its later stages. Obviously she's playing on a course she's very familiar with. She was kind of one of the first LPGA players to move out to Las Vegas, and I know she plays Shadow Creek quite often. And so for Gino to kind of take care of business like this, I was kind of hoping to see a little bit of a better fight, but we saw a few, absolute blowouts today already. Hyo Joo Kim, who we talked about, absolutely went out there and crushed Bailey Tardy. Brooke Henderson, real surprise to me, just took care of business against Leona Maguire, no problem. Leona Maguire was somebody who I had pegged to go pretty far in this, and I'm getting a little bit concerned after seeing that first round. So we've seen a lot of pretty big, swings, but we've also seen some close matches and ones that I thought were going to be a little bit more lopsided. I think of Nelly Corda playing against Brittany Altamari, a player who's just coming off of maternity leave, who, is you talk about rusty. I think she probably still has some rust on her. Altamari does. Obviously, when she's at full strength, she's a really good player who's one of the best putters on tour. But I didn't see her taking Nelly all the way to 18 and tying that match being a thing. So yeah, I mean, match play is always super fascinating. You can never really tell what's going to happen in them. You gotta get out there and play the matches. You can't just go chalk. So it's been an interesting first day so far.
All right, we're going to do a little exercise here. We're not going to pick a winner, but we're going to pick the four players we could see winning this. Max, I'll start with you and then I'll give mine.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we don't know how the bracket is going to kind of all come together when it comes down to it with reseeding and stuff like that. So I'm just going to pick four players. You can say they're my final four predictions or not. But Nelly Corda won this event last year. She got off to a slow start last year, too. A lot of people forget that. She kind of had to rally late to get into the match play portion of it last year when it was started with stroke play and then went to match play. She obviously knows the course well. She's a really good match play player, so she's the first player that I have in it. The second player I have is Charlie Hull. I don't think it takes a lot of explanations here. Absolutely elite match play performer. I think she drew a really good draw in her first round. When I look at her group, I really like what I see there. And so I think she's going to do very well in this. Se-Young Kim is a player that on paper I really, really like in match play. She's such an aggressive player, and match play doesn't really, when you take into account the risk reward, match play a lot of times leans a little bit more toward the reward because you're not risking a whole lot. It's not like stroke play where you could be giving up 5 or 6 strokes. You're just risking one hole. So I like how she plays a lot, and I think that works well for match play. And then finally, my kind of Cinderella pick. She just lost her first match, but gave a great, great run at it. And I still think she can recover. Is Austin Kim, who's a second year player, hits the ball a country mile. I love a long hitter and how they profile in match play. And I think she's going to do really well. I think she's going to be the surprise name that gets up there. So my four are Nelly Corda, Charlie Hull, um, Austin Kim, and who was my third?
Nelly, right?
I already said Nelly. Who? Oh, Se-Young Kim. There we go. We'll leave that in. I got so wrapped up in talking about Austin Kim. I love talking about Austin Kim and her game because I think she's one of the most fun players to watch on tour. But yeah, Se-Young Kim. So Nelly, Charlie, Se-Young Kim, Austin Kim.
All right, I'm going to keep the Kim theme going here, and I'm going to go with one of these aren't like in order for me of who I think is going to win, like top to bottom. They're just again four players that I could see winning. I'm gonna go Hyo Joo Kim again because you've mentioned Max. The LPGA is all about momentum, and she's got that momentum coming off the win. So I'm gonna go with her. And then Gino Tedekun has obviously she's playing a player that's a bit past her prime, but I still think that she's just a phenomenal golfer. She's played phenomenal golf this year, so I'm going to go with her. I'm going to go with Charlie Hull. You mentioned she's a really good match play player, and I think she has shown that she's been playing well. She kind of has momentum. She not exactly she hasn't won, but she's been up there on the top of the leaderboard. And then my last one, I'm also going to go with Nelly Corda because world number one, yes, she tied today, but I just you can't ever count her out.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I think she got a really good draw too. I mean, this could age really badly almost by the time this comes out, but I just don't see anybody in her group overtaking her. And it's just like in the NCAA tournament. We're looking at the men's tournament right now who has 4 1 seeds. It's like sometimes the easy answer can be the correct one. And I feel like that's the case with Nelly, at least in the first couple rounds.
Yep, and I think that next year I'm going to go with perhaps the 4 1 seeds in men's and the 4 1 seeds in women's because it's the 3 1 seeds in women's and 1 2 seed, and that 2 seed is UConn.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's I think in sports sometimes we overcomplicate things. We're like, oh, there has to be an upset here. I think sometimes just you got to go with who's really good, and Nelly Corda is really good, and I will be surprised if she doesn't somehow winning this. I'm surprised when she doesn't win every week.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, that'll do it for this edition of the Fore-All Podcast. Max, first off, before we get out of here, what's up on the site? Fore-All.com, FORE-ALL.com.
There is
To be looking out for.
There is so much stuff up this week because this is the busiest week in women's golf of the year. We have a 5 round tournament on the LPGA Tour, which is the only 5 round tournament of the year. We've got the Augusta National Women's Amateur, which is the biggest amateur event of the year. It's a crazy busy week. I think already we've had like 10 or 11 articles up, and it's only Wednesday. There's just going to be so much more coming in the next few days. So keep an eye out for that. There's going to be just full coverage of both events. Obviously, the Augusta National Women's Amateur finishes on Saturday, so we'll have wrap-up events for that, or wrap-up coverage of that. T-Mobile Match Play finishes on Sunday. We'll have wrap-up coverage of that. And then next week, we'll be here to wrap up everything that happened in the world of women's golf. So just a lot happening. Go subscribe to the newsletter. Yeah, it's a crazy time for women's golf. It's a busy time, but that means it's a good time because we've had a lot of dry weeks. So it's a good problem to have that there's almost too much this week.
All right, so make sure you go and check out that, and we will talk to you next week. For Mac, I'm Jesse Morrison. See you later.